Welcome back to another edition of The Voice of Viet Vegas. I am happy to announce that our show is now also being broadcast on Viet Vegas Media TV channel 26.6, which is a free non-cable TV channel in Las Vegas Metropolitans. Channel 26.6 provides you, the Vietnamese viewer, 12 hours of programming around the clock in the increments of 2 hours each. The program is loaded with entertainments, news, communities, politics, interviews, business and finance, children program, and many, many more. For those of you who are tuning into our show for the first time, I am Tuan Pham, one of the co-hosts of The Voice of Viet Vegas. Today, I'm pleased to have a conversations with a very special guest, former Nevada State Treasurer, Mr. Dan Schwartz, is in the studio today. Please welcome Mr. Dan Schwartz. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tuan. It's great to be here and look forward to our conversation.
All right, wonderful. So when reading your bio, Dan, I am amazed with your background. A graduate of Princeton, but in your early years in high school, you was ranking number 20 out of the 800 members of your class. And you also, on your junior year in college, that you went abroad to go to Institut d'études politiques in Paris, which is a very famous school for France. So then you get enlisted to the U.S. Army. Can you share some of your story with the audience?
Sure, thanks, Tuan. As you said, I graduated 19 out of 800. But,
oh, really?
What's one place?
Oh, okay.
I was fortunate to go to Princeton. My thought in going to college was to study,
right,
and which I did. And then when I was there, I was the last all-male class at Princeton. Wow. So I needed to take a break, and I was able to get into Sciences Po, which is the Institut d'études politiques. And
sure.
I'm sure many of your viewers know that Monsieur Macron, who is the
sure.
Président de la France, was also a graduate. It was an amazing year. We had a great curriculum, a lot of teachers well known in France. I was actually there for the FUNEB, the de Gaulle's funeral. And
De Gaulle.
De Gaulle, yeah. So he passed away in 1970, I think it was.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I've been very fortunate. I've had a very good education. Curiosity is probably the reason for that. And graduated, and I was one of the last of the draftees. And a lot of people, as I said, I spent 2 years. We were in Germany, and a lot of people say to me, "Dan, thank you for your service." And I tell people, you don't have to thank me. That was my responsibility.
Sure.
And I truly believe that. I think all Americans, we live in a great country with a lot of benefits, and I think it's incumbent upon all of us to give back some of that. So that was my first attempt to really sort of show my appreciation for the country in which we live.
Absolutely. So in curiosity, when you said that Macron was in, are you going, did you have any class with him at all?
No, he was after me.
Okay.
I graduated from Sciences Po in 71.
Oh, okay.
So
right.
I got my Certificat d'études politiques. So
right,
that was,
right.
I was
that's
fortunate
wonderful.
to get that, yeah.
Sure. So, and then you actually originated from Chicago. You were born in Chicago. What made you, and I know that you're moving around the country quite often, during those times, but what made you come to Vegas, and when was that you moved to Vegas?
Sure. You probably asked me why. Chicago is a great city.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is the winters are brutal. And as much as I liked it, my family is still there. My parents passed away, my brother is there, and he's a successful entrepreneur. But I went to Princeton, spent time in the Army, I have a law degree and a business degree. Business degree is from Columbia. I worked on Wall Street for a bit, and then I liked to write. So we bought a couple of publications, one of which was in London, the other which was in Hong Kong. And when you're in the publishing business, you probably know this, you have three constraints. One of them is that if you publish garbage, people don't invite you to dinner anymore. Number two is if you publish stuff that isn't correct, you can be sued. And because Hong Kong was under the British, the libel laws are much stricter. And number three is I had my capital at risk. We actually invested in it.
Sure.
So at some point I decided to move to Hong Kong, which is where the Asian Venture Capital Journal was located. We happened to move there. I happened to move there at a very point of inflection. Number one is the old Asia and the new Asia was really, that was really kind of the turning point. And we had a front row seat into what was going on in Asia, and especially in China. And number two was also the internet. We began to distribute AVCJ, the Asian Venture Capital Journal, via the internet, and we were the first to distribute a print publication online. My mother always used to say to me, you know, Steve Jobs stole your idea. And I said, Mom, maybe, maybe not, but he had a pretty good idea himself.
Sure.
And then in order to, again, this was again at the infancy of the internet, we couldn't find anyone to program that. So because we were in the private equity, the venture capital community, I knew some fund managers who lived in California. And I went to them, I said, help. And they said, well, we have someone who's in California who might be able to help you. Well, he could. And so I moved to, I got a place in Burlingame, which was in the Bay Area. And then I'm going to answer your question. I'm a Republican, and it's a vanishing species, soon to be extinct on the peninsula. So I literally got in the car and drove east, and in 2000, 2001, I found a place in Genoa, which is just south of Carson City. I went back to Hong Kong. The Wall Street Journal actually, they ended up not buying us, but they were interested in buying us out. We eventually got bought out by a British company, and so I came back to California, wrote a book, The Future of Finance, and things hadn't changed much. There were even fewer Republicans then, so I came back to Las Vegas, and we found a place in Las Vegas.
You have a very broad experience in the financial industry, and you were working for the banks. You also having your own boutique financial firms. And I think that you also helped one of the larger company to IPO back. And when was that you have done those those things?
Sure, Juan, you've really done your homework here. No, I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed you found out that I was in the top 20 of my high school class. That was good. But yeah, there was a company called Getz. I'll just say this, and I don't say this in immodesty. I've always been kind of an entrepreneur, and we've kind of broken. We've done things differently, but there was a brief period where U.S. companies could IPO their Japanese subsidiaries. And I happened to know through family connection that there was a company that was called Getz Brothers, which was a very large and profitable company, and its owners wanted to IPO it. And I had done some work at Daiwa Shokin, which was a Japanese securities firm, so I was able to help them IPO in Japan. I think there were only about 5 or 6 companies that did this before the window shut, but it was a successful offering, and we did it with Nikko Securities, which I don't know if they're still around anymore, but yeah,
I think they're still around.
Is Nikko still there? Yeah. We used to be known as the Big Four, and then Yamaichi disappeared.
Right.
So it was no more, and I worked for Daiwa and Nikko.
So in 2014, you elected as Nevada Treasurer. Tell us more about your experience when you have the office, and what have you achieved during those times?
Again, I will. Again, I hope I don't sound immodest to your viewers, but there an investment banker said, "Dan, you were probably one of the most successful state treasurers in the country then." We came in. I won't mention her name to protect the guilty, but my predecessor was someone who wasn't that interested in the state treasurer's office. We came in, we quintupled the returns on the state fund.
Wow,
so
that's impressive.
Yeah, we had a little help from Janet Yellen, but you can always make mistakes, and we had the right worldview, and as I said, actually it was 6 times, but my chief of staff wouldn't give me credit for that because it ended after I was done. Right. We put the kibosh on this Faraday future. Again, we were under some pressure to issue bonds to support this project, and I didn't have any objections at first, but as we got into it more and more, it became clear that the financial backer didn't have any money, and that what was ultimately a Ponzi scheme. And we put a stop to that. I was under pressure from the governor, from the mayor of North Las Vegas to issue the bonds, and I said, I can't do that. And right now, the entrepreneur is under investigation by the Department of Justice. I'm sure if he went back to China the minute he stepped off the plane, he would be arrested. I was a big supporter of ESAs, which are education savings accounts, which are parental choice. I also raised issues on the $750 million that the state gave to the Raiders. I love the Raiders. Actually, I don't love it. I support football. I'm a Bears fan. But what my issue was that instead of funding the ESAs, they funded the stadium. And I had a problem with that.
Right.
I think, go ahead.
So briefly, that we have about minutes before we run out of this on these segments. So you also ran for Congress in a newly created 4th Congressional District back in 2012, and then you again in 2017 you ran for governorship. So what happened then?
I think in 12 that was a first race. We weren't going to win, and also the CD4 really is very much a Democrat district. I mean, where our candidate happened to win in 14, but he was very, very fortunate. He's run twice since and has not been elected. In running against in 2018 when I ran for governor, we had been successful as state treasurer. I could have run for a second term, probably been elected. All I would have done is put my feet up on the desk, and I think that the taxpayers of Nevada deserve better than that. The gentleman I lost to was a name in Nevada, Adam Laxalt. I thought he was not representing the Republican Party the way he should have. We lost. We actually lost. He started running as soon as he was elected state's attorney. So, in politics, you kind of pays your money and takes your chances. I've always tried to do what's right and what I believe, and that's what I'm doing in this election here in 2020.
Please stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment.